Okay, so today we are working on the areas of parallelograms and triangles. This is stuff that you guys have seen before, but this is real practical use of geometry, and we'll talk about that later on. So we are looking at a few key concepts here. The base of a parallelogram is any of the sides of a parallelogram. So this is the base of this parallelogram. The altitude of a parallelogram is a segment that's perpendicular to the line containing the base. So this is perpendicular to this base. Again, they're saying this is the base and this is the altitude. This is important to know. The height of a parallelogram is the length of the altitude. So the height of this parallelogram is right here. That's the height. And this is the height. The height of a triangle is the length of the altitude to the line that contains the base. So here's the base. Here's the height. Here's the base. This altitude right here is the right angle. There's the height. Here's the base of this triangle. It's not this extra stuff here. That's not base. And then the height is outside the triangle right here. You see, those are all 90-degree angles. So now when we're looking at the area of a rectangle, the area of a rectangle is base times height. That's the formula that you use. The area of a parallelogram is base times height. And the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Now remember, when we are working with area, we are working with square units. So you always will have to have a square unit associated with your answer. So, for example, this is a square, and actually we didn't do this on the other page, but the area of a square is side squared, which was actually the base times the height. Side squared. So the area equals 25 squared, which is 625 centimeters squared. So number 2, we've got a rectangle, and we've got a base, and we have a height with 90 degrees altitude. Okay, so the area of a rectangle is base times height. So that's 10 times 3, 30 meters squared. That's your answer. Next, we've got a triangle. Now remember, the area for a triangle equals 1/2 of the base times the height. Okay, so where's the base in this? We're going to look at this as being the base. And the height is the altitude. So if we say area is 1/2 base times height, we've got 12 times 4. Okay, now to solve, actually 1/2 times 12 is 6, times 4 is 24. 24 feet squared. All right, now this is going to be a little bit more confusing, because remember when we talked about the parallelogram, it's base times height, but you have to get the right base. Did you notice here we have the height outside the parallelogram? This one we have the height here, and that's associated with this base. So when we get down to this one, we have to find the right base and the right height. So the right base is going to be this line right here, because we have the height right here. So area equals base times height. The base is 16. The height is 10. So that equals 160. And we don't have any units, so I'm going to just say units squared. You have to have a unit. Next, here we've got that base and a height. Okay, in a parallelogram, remember that the height can be outside the shape, and this is the base. Not this whole thing here, just the base. And the height is right here. So, area of a parallelogram is base times height. So I have 2 centimeters, and I have 3.5 centimeters. Oops. That equals 7 centimeters squared. Okay, so now here we have an altitude that's outside the triangle. That's okay. We just have to figure out which base it is. So if we're looking at this triangle, we have the altitude that goes right here. So it's going to be associated with this base right here. Only the base, not the extra stuff. We're not worried about the air that's between the base and the altitude. Okay, so now as we set this one up, remember area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Okay, so base 1/2 base times height. The base is 7.8. The height is 5.6. When I plug that into my calculator, I end up with 21.8 units squared. Okay. Now, this is where we get a little bit tricky, but you guys can do it. I know that you're capable of it. I'm looking at this, and it's a rectangle, but I don't have this altitude. I don't have this height. I have the base. And I see that there's 10 degrees right here, which means, oh boy, looks like we're going to be using SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so SOHCAHTOA. All right, so if I'm looking at opposite, I don't have anything on the hypotenuse here. There's nothing here, so I'm not going to be able to use either sine or cosine, so it's got to be tangent. So, all right, how do I set this out? This is the tangent of 10. Whoops, I don't want to do that. Tangent of 10 equals opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 33. So x equals 33 times the tangent of 10. So then I end up with x equals 5.8. But I'm not done. Okay, so now I have to figure out the area of this shape. Now that I have both sides, I can do that. So I'm going to say the area Area equals the base times the height. I'm going to call 33 the base and 5.8 the height. So we'll get that all together, and it's 191.4 units squared. Okay, so here's another one. We've got a perimeter of 36. So how am I going to figure out the area of this thing? Well, if the perimeter is 36, I know that the sides, perimeter divided by 3 is going to equal the sides. So the sides are each 12, I'm sorry. So now I'm going to take this triangle and figure out what the height is. Well, if it's an equilateral triangle, I know that it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle because each of these angles is 60. So this is a 60, this is a 60, and this one on top is 60, so I know that this is 30, and this is 30, and this is 90. Okay, so we've got a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I need to figure out the long leg of that triangle. So let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to take half of 12 to get the short leg, and then the long leg is 6 radical 3, because you know that from last chapter. Okay, so now all I have to do is type that into, figure that out, and put it into the area of a triangle. Area equals 1/2 the base times the height. Okay, so 1/2 of the base, which is the base. The base is going to be this line right here. So we know that is 12. And we know that the height right here is 6 radical 3. So you type that into your calculator and you get